Every day, over 100,000 people die. With numbers like these, it's no surprise that some deaths stand out as truly bizarre. In this video, we'll explore 3 of the strangest deaths ever recorded. Vladimir Leonos was a 25-year-old Ukrainian chemistry student at a regional branch of the Kiev Polytechnic Institute. Vladimir would often chew gum during his studies and would add citric acid to his gum in order to prolong the flavor as he worked. In December of 2009, he was doing his usual studying and was working with explosive chemicals at the time. He was working from his desk at his home, with his citric acid next to him, which closely resembled an unidentified explosive powder he was handling. Once the gum he was chewing began losing flavor, he went to dip it in the citric acid, but he got the 2 powders mixed up and accidentally laced the chewing gum with the explosive powder. Triggered either by reacting with his saliva or by the pressure exerted by him biting down, the powder exploded in his mouth. One of Vladimir's family members heard the bang and found his body. His jaw and most of the lower part of his face was blown off, and he was bleeding profusely. When the police and paramedics arrived, they attempted to treat his injuries, but were unable to save him. During their investigation, they found both citric acid and 3.5 ounces or 100 grams of the substance. A bomb squad was called to the location to determine what the substance was, but it was far too volatile to transport. It was later found out that Vladimir had dipped his gum into a powder that was 4 times more powerful than TNT. Moral of the story: don't mix your citric acid with explosive powder. In 1980, a 21-year-old South Carolina man, Michael Anderson Godwin, was on work release from prison when he brutally murdered 24-year-old Mary Elizabeth Royam. She had been sexually assaulted and beaten to death with an electric iron. Godwin went on trial in 1981 and was sentenced to die by electric chair after being convicted of murder and sexual assault. In 1983, a retrial cleared him of the assault, and his sentence was reduced to life imprisonment. As fate would have it, Godwin was still destined to die on an electric chair, but this chair was a different one. Sitting in his cell at Central Correctional Institution, Godwin was permitted to have a small television set, but prison officials prohibited the use of speakers and only earphones were allowed. Godwin's earphones weren't working, so he decides to repair them, while sitting on a metal toilet, naked. First, he needed to strip the insulation from the earphone wires, but he didn't have any electrician tools inside his cell. Improvising, he bites the insulation with his teeth and strips the insulation. As he bit into the electric cord, a charge of electricity coursed through his body, which was amplified by the steel toilet he was sitting on. There was enough electricity to stop his heart, killing him almost instantly. Richland County Coroner Frank Barron said Godwin was severely burned in his mouth and tongue. Afterwards, an investigation went on for a little, but ultimately, his death was ruled an accident. In some African cultures, it's believed that a person's ancestors may visit them in the form of bees. A man in South Africa believed this as well, and attempted to communicate with a swarm of bees, but it didn't end well. 58-year-old Nena Jimana was talking to the bees during a traditional ceremony known as ukugsotha inyosi, or dispersing bees. The bees had arrived a week prior, gathering at one of the family's rendezvous huts. In certain African cultures, members believe that ancestors will visit their living relatives in the form of bees or water monitor lizards to warn the family that they haven't been performing their traditional rituals. The arrival of bees or water monitor lizards in the home is a sign that the family must seek counsel from a healer to get an understanding as to which rituals must be performed. According to his brother, Njimbana spoke with a sangoma, a traditional healer, and returned home to tell the ancestral bees that he would take care of the traditional rituals in time. On November 4th, 2022, Njimbana was performing the ritual next to a river when the swarm of bees attacked him. Bee stings often contain phospholipase venom, which can lead to blood clotting. If a person sustains numerous stings that go untreated, it can lead to difficulty breathing, tongue swelling, nausea, unconsciousness, and eventually death. After the ceremony, the bees are supposed to fly off, but they believed his ancestors were displeased with his answer, and the swarm of bees killed him instead.